Hey everyone, Mike here from MLive&apos, joined by Justin Rogers. Another game on tap for the Lions this week against the Rams. A couple of 4-8 teams, both teams really out of contention. The Lions are not mathematically eliminated, although that could happen this weekend. But they are out of it in all realistic scenarios. So the question now becomes, what do the Lions have to play for, or what are you watching? Justin, what are you watching from this team in the final quarter of the season?
I don't know about you. I was dragging a bit this week, just looking for topics. It's kind of a boring matchup. It's
a 4-8 team. It's just not
4-8 team versus a 4-8 team. Yeah. But I'm really going to be keyed in on Matthew Stafford's close to the season. Yeah. He's had a really strong 4 to 6 game stretch here, depending on how you want to look at it. Passer rating's been over 100 for the last 4. Great touchdown to interception ratio. This comes on the heels of where there was some speculation of whether he would be out with the next GM, and I think he's quickly shut down that question. But I do want to see him finish the year strong and really build that momentum into 2016.
The biggest questions about the Lions going forward into 2016 is who is the GM, who's the head coach, who's the quarterback, what happens to Calvin Johnson. Yeah. And Stafford's obviously in that group, and his fate will be in part decided by who's the GM and to an effect who's the coach. But I think he has shown in the past month what he's capable of, and we've seen it in spurts over time, and that's his strength, but also his weakness is that he's done it only in spurts over time, and he's been inconsistent, but he's got so much ability, and you give him time as he has in the past month with the improved offensive line, and the kid can play, right? And so I think, if he has a strong final month of the season, I really do think it helps his chances of staying in Detroit for at least another year.
One stat that really caught me off guard with Stafford when I was just looking at his numbers this year is he hasn't completed less than 60% of passes in every game this year. Mm-hmm. Accuracy has always been a thing, and he's throwing a lot of shorter passes this year, but career 60% completion percentage, and this year he's over 60%. I think he's completed around 65 for the season. Really big stride there for him.
And part of it is because they've had more shorter passes this year, particularly early in the season. I think that maybe helped his percentages a little bit. But I think that does speak to Jim Bob Cooter and some of the work that he's done with him, because people forget. I mean, he's the offensive coordinator now. He's the play caller. There's a lot of attention paid there. But this guy, Jim Bob Cooter, was with the team for the past year and a half before that, and he spent a lot of it working with Stafford on his techniques, in particular his footwork, according to people I've talked to. And, we remember Stafford from the good old days of when side-arming and stuff, and sometimes that's okay, but the big thing with him was footwork. It wasn't consistent. You saw a lot of errant passes, I think, based on the footwork. Cooter's done great work there, and I think you have seen a more technically sound Stafford, even if the decision-making hasn't always been there. And in the past month, that has been there. Certainly, it'll be interesting to see what happens with him in the final month. Because, again, strong final month. I think he's with this team going forward. I'm also looking at Ameer Abdullah, sticking with the offense. And I don't want to talk for 5 minutes straight, but Abdullah, or maybe I do. Yeah. But Abdullah is the future of the backfield. Make no mistake. It's not Joik Bell. For as much as we like Joik as a guy and everything, but Ameer, second-round pick this year. He's faster. He's a big play guy. We saw with the kickoff return this year, the 104-yarder. He's picked it up in the past couple of weeks too, with more opportunities now that he's hanging out of the football. And so I think it behooved the Lions to get him a lot of reps in this final month, see what he's got, get him some experience, and get a better feel for what he can provide going forward in 2016, because he is going to be a part of this offense, a fixture of this offense going forward.
Yeah, I mean, he's not built to ever be that 25, 30 carry a game guy like a Gurley that we're going to see this week in St. Louis, but I see Ameer's ceiling something maybe like Gio Bernard in Cincinnati, which is
I like that.
A guy that can carry it 12, 15 times, have a lot of big play pop, a great receiver out of the backfield when you need him. He's going to need a compliment. This roster's going to need a compliment, and it's looking less and less likely like that's going to be Joik Bell. I don't know if he'll ever be the same guy again. Maybe that means another drafted running back, or maybe they'll scour the free agents wire for that power component.
Don't forget about Zach Zenner.
Zach Zenner, I did forget about him for a second, but
he
wandered through the locker room today. He's the least football player-looking football player on this roster. He just doesn't look like a football player.
He could totally be the guy who goes to the locker room updating the playbooks at each of the lockers.
He does. He looks like a member of the laundry staff. But listen, the guy can play, and we saw that in the preseason. Assuming the rib injury heals well, he's absolutely in play to be that component. Another guy I'm looking at is Lakin Tomlinson. He has taken steady strides, but it has been a rocky rookie season for him. Very up and down, very inconsistent. Was talking to him in the locker room the other day, and they have these rookie classes every week, led by the team, where they just learn different elements of being an NFL player, post-NFL player life. And this week's focus was on what you do in the offseason. You see a big jump for players from year 1 to year 2 because they're not focused on the draft. They're focused on being better NFL players, not running 40-yard dashes or bench pressing. I think Tomlinson will take that big step next year. He's a very committed guy. Clearly has the talent we saw in college, and is a player I want to see close out the season well.
That's 3 offensive players we're watching, 1 defensive player I'm watching in the final month of the season. Ameer Abdullah. He's risen into the starting lineup over the past month, and I don't even think it was because Adibo was necessarily playing poorly. In fact, I thought he was playing just fine. But Issa is just a better fit for this defense. He covers more ground, and he hits harder than I thought he did. He's really surprised me with some of the hits that he's had on defense. Darius Slay told us this week that he's calling him Smash.com. I'm not sure if that's actually made it to Issa, because I talked to Issa about it. He's like, I never heard that before. But it's a great nickname and speaks to some of the physicality he's brought. I think he surprised a lot of people because he was brought in specifically for his special teams ability. He can fly, he can tackle, but now he's putting it all together and playing some defense too. And that's a situation where maybe he's auditioning for a full-time starting job next year because I believe he's a free agent after the year. So the Lions will have a decision to make at that spot alongside Glover Quinn. And really in their whole secondary as a whole, they have to figure out what to do outside of Darius Slay at cornerback. Nevin Lawson could be auditioning for a job, Quandre Diggs in the nickel, and so on and so forth. So a lot of guys to look at, but specifically I think if Issa Abdul-Quddus continues to play as he has in the past 4 weeks, he could play himself into a starter's contract for the Lions in 2016.
He's making some money regardless as a good special teams player and better than adequate backup in this league. But I think he is showing starter potential. You must have blinked in training camp because, man, he was knocking some guys around in training camp too. But
it was sunny.
Yeah, it was. Another guy in defense. I just want to see Devin Taylor continue what he's doing. He's having a phenomenal stretch. He's finally starting to actualize some of that potential that we thought maybe he would have in the first year with Caldwell, and really kind of busted last year. Bust is such a weird term in the NFL, but didn't meet the expectations I think writers, fans had for him. And even to start this year, he had a nice preseason. It looked like it was going to put together, and it took a slow start. He was inactive 1 week, and I think that was actually the turning point for him. Really, really nice stretch here. Obviously, the face mask calls a sour note to end it on, but if he can continue putting on pass rush pressure, I think you maybe have your bookends of the future with both Ansah and Taylor there. Similar builds, similar athleticism, just one's much more consistent than the other.
Not a lot left to play for as a team at 4-8 for the Lions, but individually, a lot of guys playing for jobs, for contracts. Coaches are certainly coaching for contracts, whether that's under Caldwell or somebody else, and whether that's whoever the GM is. There's nothing to play for with the Lions, but individually speaking, everyone has something to play for, and you're going to see that. A lot of young guys we're watching too, just to see what may be in the cards for them going forward. For Justin Rogers, I'm Kyle Meinke. We are MLive. Keep it right here.